Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rebecca, I'm 45 years old and I used to suffer from multiple sclerosis, but I no longer experience any of the symptoms since starting the carnivore diet just over 2 years ago. In today's video, I wanted to address a question or a comment that frequently comes up on my videos, and I have answered this question, but I thought it's probably quite a good idea to make a video about the topic. Because it's a fair question, and that is, if the carnivore diet is working so well, if you are feeling so great, why do you keep going back to the doctors? So if you've been following my channel for the past few years, you'll know that I have been for a couple of MRI scans and I've had a few run-ins with my neurologist. Now, the first thing is, why would I go to a neurologist who I don't see eye to eye with? And I have answered this many times. The reason is I can't actually change my neurologist because I am in the Spanish social security system, the public healthcare system. So I get referred to a specific neurologist in my region. I don't get to shop around for a neurologist that I might have similar views to. So that's the first one, and I've answered that many times. The question of why do I go to a neurologist at all if I feel well is a reasonable question. Why on earth would I do that? It's quite contradictory just to sit in front of him and be told, you need to go on medication, you need to follow my orders, and made to feel like I'm living in a fantasy world about feeling better. Why would I put myself through that? There's a few reasons why, and the first one is that when you have a diagnosis like multiple sclerosis, it's stuck with you for life. Because as far as the medical profession understands, as far as the general population understands, it is incurable, it is degenerative. So you have to be regularly monitored for things such as your driving license. When I first got diagnosed, I told the DVLA, which is the British driving license authorities, that I had this diagnosis. It was incumbent upon me to do this. I legally had to do this. So I told them that I have MS, and that meant that my driving license had to be renewed every few years with a neurologist's approval. When I moved to Spain, I changed my driving license from a British one to a Spanish one, and the DVLA passed that information on to Spain. So it was out of my hands. The information went to the Spanish authorities, and it's the same situation here. It's every 3 years I have to renew my driving license, and I have to hand in a report from my neurologist saying that I'm still fit to drive. So that's one major reason why I can't burn my bridges with my neurologist. I have to be able to go to him and get his report. So things like that, which you might not realize come into your life as somebody with a diagnosis of a incurable chronic illness. But there's also the fact that really, I don't know if my MS is going to come back someday. I am in the blessed situation where I am not experiencing any symptoms. I am not disabled anymore by the MS that I officially have. I don't ever think about it. It's just not something that weighs on my mind or impinges on my life in a real way at all, which is the main thing. But the reality is that I might be wrong about the fact that it has gone away forever. My circumstances might change. My neurologist is very clear about this. I don't know if he's right either, but what he says to me is, you can't be an ostrich and bury your head in the sand and expect the lion to just run past you and not get you. He was like, this condition is a lion, and at some point, most likely, it will get you. And I'm not in a position to say for sure that that's not true. And that possibility means that I want to still have a medical team, just in case. I want to be on good terms with them. I want to have regular checkups so that if anything does happen, they've got a clear picture of how things have been. It's just, to me, the sensible and wise thing to do, to have something in the background which is there just in case. I don't live with that fear. I feel absolutely fine. But I also know that there are lots of people out there with MS who do experience years in remission, and then it comes to get them further down the line. For me, when I started the diet, that's exactly when the symptoms immediately stopped. So there's the connection in timing, which makes me think that the diet did have an impact. I also experienced an upturn in symptoms when I changed my environment to live in a rural environment. So I also think that that had an impact on my symptoms. And there are many people out there who've experienced the same. You know, I'm not a unique case. So I personally am of the belief that diet and lifestyle can powerfully influence your experience, your progression of the disease. But I cannot say for sure that in the future that will still be the case. And while I don't live with that fear, I'd be kind of foolish to just assume that reality might not be the case. So there's that reason as well. But there's also the reason that I quite enjoy having this type of interaction with my neurologist. And I wonder if he might secretly, without admitting it to me out of pride, but secretly be learning something, because he himself says that my case is an enigma. And he can't explain it. He can't explain the sudden disappearance of my symptoms and the fact that they've gone away for 2 years. And I had an MRI scan that showed my lesions weren't active. And I'm not on medication. Like he's saying that as far as he's concerned, that's not possible. And here I am flying in the face of all of his beliefs. I like that. I enjoy that. I like being an anomaly to him because it makes him think. And I noticed something in my last meeting with him, because I hadn't seen him for 2 years because I moved away to Galicia and then moved back to Asturias. And there was a gap of 2 years in which I didn't see him, and came back and I said, look, I still haven't had symptoms. I'm still absolutely fine. And we had a conversation that was much nicer, and it made me think that he'd possibly gone away and thought about his previous approach to me, which was very aggressive, very kind of trying to bear down on me and fear tactics, and they weren't working. And I wonder if during the 2 years that I was away, he might have reflected on his approach, because one thing he said to me that I forgot to mention, and I put up a video about that appointment, but I forgot to mention something he said, which was possibly the most important thing that he said. He said, I can't force you to go on medication if you don't want to. He has never said that to me before. And that is a fundamental principle of medicine. Informed consent. I have to consent to the medication. And I am informed about the medication because I've been on it. I know what the deal is. And I don't consent. And he has to respect that. And somehow, over the past 5 years, that principle has been chucked out and forgotten about and trampled all over by these mandates for substances that haven't even been tested long term. You know, it's a scary world we're in. And he was saying things like, if you don't accept MS treatment for your chronic condition, then we don't have to treat you for any acute events that might happen to you. Like, he was basically taking my rights away. He's changed his tune. I think he knows that he can't do that. So he's now saying, I can't force you to go on treatment. And to me, that suggests that he has reflected on our relationship, our patient-doctor relationship. And that means a lot to me. It means a lot to me that he's changed his attitude and he's changed his principles because of my case. I can't change the medical profession. I can't change the pharmaceutical industry. But if my case gives cause for a neurologist to sit back and question his assumptions about multiple sclerosis and about the pharmaceutical industry, then that is a win. Because ultimately, they are the people who ideally we would be getting through to as carnivores, as people who are taking control of our own health and fighting for body sovereignty. It's the gatekeepers of the pharmaceutical industry, the doctors, the experts that we need to get through to. And I feel like if I just cut myself off and disappear and go and live my life, nothing will ever change. And maybe I'll never change his mind, but all I can do is plant a seed of doubt. And I think that is what's been happening. I quite enjoy that situation. I quite enjoy going into my appointments with him and saying, like, here I am, I'm still absolutely fine. And he might not ask me about the carnivore diet. He might not ask me about my lifestyle choices, but he is asking himself, why isn't this patient more sick? Why isn't this patient experiencing her disease the way that I'm expecting her to? And that is causing him to think. And maybe further down the line, he might begin to be open, because people need time to become open. You can't just throw information contrary to their existing world beliefs and expect them to be open to that information. Seeds of doubt need to be planted. Time needs to pass for them to be processed and to start to grow. And I do think that perhaps that's what's happening with this neurologist. So That's just my hope. And I want to be sensible. I don't want to sit here on my YouTube channel and say, cut all your ties with doctors, go off all medication. I don't want to. I mean, I don't consider myself an influencer. I have a very small channel, but you know, I do put my case out there. And if anybody's watching who has MS, who is newly diagnosed, I don't want to be responsible for them deciding to cut all their ties and that being the wrong thing for them to do. So I feel like I have a responsibility to be sensible and to maintain relations and to try and put forward my situation directly to the doctors, if that makes sense. Also, I would just add that it is interesting. It's interesting to have MRI scans. It's interesting to have blood tests laid on for me on a regular basis when I'm experimenting with my own body. Like it's a way of having an insight into my body because I'm having tests that potentially backs up what the diet's doing. So there's that as well. It's just having information, keeping the relationship open in case it's needed in the future. But first and foremost, I just need my driving license. I live in the countryside and I need to be able to drive. So if they take my driving license away, I am screwed. So that is the main first reason why I still go for checkups. So there are my reasons for still going to my neurologist and keeping up that relationship. Let me know what you guys do. Have you guys cut off your doctors? Do you guys still go to your doctors? What do you think? I'd be very interested to hear. Okay, take care and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.